Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, on to the 5 principles of the Cruiser PLC.
Already this summer, we've had almost a quarter of our Groveport teachers participating in professional development with us. The teachers are really leading the strengthening of our PLC right now. These are the 5 principles of our Cruiser PLC. We focus on learning, we collaborate, we take responsibility, we ask what are the results, we decide what to do next.
All right, on to roll call, please.
Yes, Mr. Kirshner. Here. Mrs. Dowderberger.
Here.
Mr. Gray. I'm sorry, Mr. Bauer.
Here.
Last time. Mrs. Gray.
Here.
And Miss Walsh.
Here.
All right, on to our review of belief statements and board norms, please.
Our belief statement: we believe all cruisers are valuable. We will unconditionally serve, support, and inspire. Therefore, every cruiser will maximize their unique purpose, potential, and power to produce the results they want. Our board norms: as leaders of the district, we will always strive to 1. Support the mission and vision of the district. 2. Be prepared, informed, and ready for meetings. 3. Respect one another as elected representatives of the community. Be open-minded and recognize one another's strengths, the value of diverse perspectives, and mutual commitment to the mission and vision of the district. 4. Allow members to complete their thoughts and statements before others comment. Allow others to be heard and listen to all perspectives with an open mind. 5. Stay focused on the task at hand and respectfully redirect each other when needed. 6. Maintain confidentiality and communicate per board policies. Ensure trust and transparency in all dealings. And 7. After a vote is cast, leave meetings united as one voice, no matter the outcome.
Thank you so much. On to item B, agenda approval. Can I get a motion to approve the meeting agenda, please?
So moved. Second.
All right, I have Mrs. Gray as first, Mrs. Dowderberger as second. Any discussion? Hearing none, on to roll call, please.
Mr. Kirshner.
Aye.
Mrs. Dowderberger.
Aye.
Mr. Bauer.
Aye.
Ms. Gray.
Aye.
Miss Walsh.
Aye.
Motion passes. On to item D, public participation. We have one public participation form. Before we get started, I am going to read something real quick. All meetings of the board and board appointed committees are open to the public. In order for the Board of Education to fulfill its obligation to complete the planned agenda in an effective and efficient fashion, a maximum of 30 minutes of public participation may be permitted at each regular Board of Education meeting. Each person addressing the Board of Education shall give his or her name, address, phone number, organization represented, and pertinent background information. If several people wish to speak, each person is allotted 3 minutes until the total time of 30 minutes is used. During that period, no person may speak twice until all who desire to speak have had the opportunity to do so. Persons desiring more time should submit their request in writing to the Board of Education office or email public.comment@gocruisers.org 7 days prior to the scheduled meeting. The period of public participation may be extended by a majority vote of the board members present and voting. Please remember that law prohibits discussion of specific employees or their job performance at a public meeting. State law does allow for discussions by board members regarding employees in executive sessions of the board. We have one public participant, Miss Melissa Nelson. If you can come up to the podium, please.
Okay, so my name is Melissa Nelson. My address, right, is 3331 Bixby Road, Groveport. My phone number is 740-507-8230. I'm not with any group or organization. I have 4 children that have either are currently at the high school or have graduated here recently. anything else before I go to my spiel? Okay. So I wanted to talk today about the baseball coach for the high school. I know that there is a lot of controversy over his trial and things that are
Miss
separate
Nelson,
from the school.
real quick. So you can't discuss specific employees or their job performance, but you can.
But without saying his name, I can't still.
Correct. Or title that would identify that individual. You can, though, if you would like, ask for executive session to speak to us.
Will that be, like, would that happen in like a timely manner before his contract would be evaluated, or like his status for the next year? Or would it be whenever at any, I mean, do you have any type of guidelines as to how quickly I would be able to get an executive meeting?
We could do an executive. We can call an executive session. I believe currently right now. I'll verify by our attorney. Yep. So we could do it now.
Okay.
Is that what
I
you would
would,
like
yeah,
to do?
yes, I
Okay.
would like to do that.
I'm going to need the verbiage, please. Okay. Yep.
Yep, and I'll second it.
So I need to read it first. Go to it real quick. For clarification, it doesn't need to be the superintendent. I can recommend. For the executive session. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to make a motion that we
Mr. President, if we could, I could ask for a 10-minute recess, please. May I have
Sure.
a motion, make a motion for a 10-minute recess, please?
Yep, I will second it.
Thank you.
On to roll call, please.
This motion is for a 10-minute recess. First, Latoya, second by Seth.
Yep.
Mr. Kirschner?
Right.
Mrs. Delderberg?
Aye.
Mr. Bauer?
Aye.
Ms. Gray?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
All right, we are in recess. It is 7:08. We will return at 7:18. All right, it is 7:26 and we are back in session. You can come up, yeah. So we did look at the contract with our GMLEA, and we do need a unit member there in order to call the executive session. So we
Okay.
will not be able to do that tonight, but we
Okay.
can do that at a later date if you would like.
Okay. But like within pretty good reason, like not like, you know, the end of summer or something, like before decisions are made for,
Yeah, we can reach out to our GMLEA president, and then we can set up a time for that.
okay.
Yep.
So who would I follow up with, or like leaving my contact email, like my information just on the paper?
You can
so that I
email me,
okay.
copy our superintendent, Mr. Groove, as
Okay.
well, and then we can set up a time.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure I follow this. You're fine. I'm sorry. I'm addressing the board. Now, because the GMLEA files a grievance and intimidates us, we don't allow public input without some big rigmarole when things occur. This seems very new and unprecedented. There may be things written in a contract, but there's also law, and the public has a right to speak and be heard. And I think we're holding them at bay. And I don't understand it at all. I really don't. I think there are, as I stated before, I believe there are elements of our contract. I'm ashamed that I voted for it, that clearly violate state law. And I think we are catering to that. And I'm sorry. I apologize for us not hearing you today. I don't agree with what's happening. Thank you.
Just to clarify, though, this is our board policy, and I did read under the public content that it does prohibit discussion of specific employees or their job performance. And as long as I've been on the board, that's been the case.
Right. And we could have addressed that if you and I had attended board policy committees as was voted. Just because we have a policy doesn't make it good, doesn't make it right. Here's what happens. You want to give accolades to an employee? We do it. We name them. We discuss them. We violate policy according to policy then every time we recognize an employee because we're calling them by name. It's only when it's on the downside and somebody has something negative that we enforce this policy. Think about that. It's a bad policy. We should have rewritten it, but we don't have policy committee meetings, so we don't.
Well, which policy are you citing?
It's right here, and I can have our attorney come up to the podium real quick and discuss it if
That-
you are able to.
That's not a policy, that's just a reading of a paragraph that is arbitrary. What policy does that come from?
It's your public participation policy, and if you'll give me a minute, I can pull it up. It is board policy BDDH, your public participation at board meetings policy.
And isn't that the same policy that we've just read that says you have to identify yourself and give an address?
Correct.
Whereas state law would indicate that I could come up and say, I'm Willy Wonka and I live at the chocolate factory and I want to be anonymous. But we state to the public that they must provide contact information. And isn't that, in fact, a constitutional violation of freedom of speech?
So what I'm saying is that your board, you are required to follow your board policy
Right.
and your negotiated agreement. And in both places, there is a public participation policy, and in your contract, there is a formal procedure laid out for complaints.
And we can also get our butts sued off following board policy when they violate rights.
I'm just stating that. I will say 17 months ago, I stood before you guys in November. I came up and I said, by the way, the idea that I have to give my name and address is a violation of my civil rights. It's unlawful. Look into it. 16 months later, we still sit here with policies that I will tell you are not right. She should be able to come up and she should. One of the reasons we don't get feedback from some of these incidences is because parents want their kids to be able to participate and they don't want retaliation. And here we have this, which seems like it's all loaded in one direction. And so, yeah, we agreed to follow board policy, which we don't. On both sides, we do not. We violate that all the time. But having a board policy and having a constitution and having a law and not having them all line up is foolish. And we just sit here and we just wait for policies to be brought to us. And we have not gone through our policy manual. We have not since it was instituted. The board has not gone through our policy manual. So we're just missing opportunities. And this is one. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, I definitely would disagree as far as going through the manual. Maybe this particular board is a whole, may have not went through all of the policies, but we did go through our policies. I do understand the challenges are the things that you're stating, Mr. Kirchner. So I would yield to you that if there is a change, then if we could present the change to the policy you'd like to make. And then I think at some point when we are back at the discussion for our union, I think it's best that we follow the time frame for bargaining and things like that, so it doesn't look as if we're going against that as far as the whole body of teachers. I definitely don't want to stifle or hinder a parent from speaking, but I don't want to also violate our teachers union as well. So if we could find a way with working with our legal counsel, our HR director, superintendent, and our attorneys and the president to make sure that we are in confine and that is still meeting the need of our parents and our constituents, I think that is the best route at this time with where we are.
Yeah.
So thank you for your time.
Thank you. And you just turned on a light bulb for me. Our de facto legal counsel, which doesn't charge us anything by state law, is the prosecutor's office. I move that the section regarding public comment and the section regarding public comment be presented by the board president for review to the prosecutor's office for legal review to see if it passes muster by way of state law and constitutional rights.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, on to discussion.
Well, I would agree that we need to go to the prosecutor's office. Our board policy does say that that's one of our attorneys, and we should be utilizing them. It would save the district quite a bit of money, I would think. Yeah, they're there for us to use, and they write opinions all the time. So it definitely would be a good thing to get an opinion instead of going back and forth and back and forth. And then we would know for sure.
Thank you.
I would also like to make a comment, if we are going to be sending this, that we also send a copy of the GMLEA contract along with it.
I concur, Ms. Graceland.
That's a great idea.
For,
I will modify my motion to include a copy of the GMLEA contract. Thank you.
And I don't know also if the OPSI contract probably too, just
Yeah,
to make
we'd have
I
to
should
just
have
do
that.
both.
Let's just lay it all out.
Mhm.
That's fine. And I will point out that in each contract, it says that in conflict with state law prevails. So the answer to the first question will answer the second question, but we can provide all of that.
Mr. Collier, do you mind reading the current motion?
All right, word on answer. All right, so the motion to go to the prosecutor's office for policy opinion but also include the GMLA contract, OPSI contract, and the board policies, and give it to the prosecutor's office. First for John and second for Kathy.
could you specify which board policy in that motion, please?
John, okay, I was trying to write it all down. John, was it just the public participation policy?
Correct.
Okay. Just opposed the picture.
And that was BDDH, right?
Correct. BDDH.
BDDH. Okay. Okay, and then I had first John, second Kathy. Are we all good?
Yep. Any other discussion? On to roll call, please.
Mr. Kirschner?
Aye.
Mrs. Dauterberger?
Aye.
Mr. Bauer?
Aye.
Ms. Gray?
Aye.
And Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
Motion passes. On to, one second here. Recognitions and presentations, please.
Excuse me. Okay, recognitions of service awards for outstanding service to the district. In past years, we've had some folks come into these meetings. This year, we had the awards given out to the teachers at their buildings. So while they're not here to receive a reward, I want to recognize the names listed for 25 years of service. Ryan Alton, Colleen Brady, Kurt Brogan, Sheila Downing, Heather Garn, Sarah Henry, Colleen Kahn, Kathleen McDermott, Kathleen Monholland, Andrea Murphy, Sandra Rickard, Brenda Telerico, and Carrie Teal. 30 years of service, our Association Vice President, Teresa Foster, and 35 years of service, Anita Braver. So let's give a round of applause for them. Our next recognition, Superintendent recommends that the Groveport Madison Schools Board of Education adopt the resolutions recognizing Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, Older Americans Month, Mental Health Awareness Month, Jewish American Heritage Month, June Pride Month for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, and asexual people, and recognizing June 17th as attached. The 6 resolutions attached to the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. I have Mrs. Gray as first. Mrs. Dauterberger as second. Any discussion? Hearing none, on to roll call, please.
Mr. Kirschner?
Aye.
Mrs. Dauterberger?
Aye.
Mr. Bauer?
Aye.
Ms. Gray?
Aye.
And Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Our next item is going to be a very abbreviated teaching and learning update.
This is going to be very short. You have the presentation that we were going to do in May, but this picture I think says it all. You can look back at the presentation. Mike came up with a schedule that was just amazing for these 2 days. We started every session. We did the first day. We did 10 tools for the teachers to learn about, the teacher tools for Magic School AI. The next day we did student tools. We set up Mike the schedule that he created, 5, 6, 7 minutes of us presenting. And then we gave the teachers time to practice, and then they shared out. So by the goal was they would enter into August with 20 new ideas. It was absolutely amazing. GMLEA provided fantastic donations and giveaways. We had prizes. We had over 80 educators attend this for 2 days. And it was, I think everyone was excited. Everyone that walked past us was kind of jealous because they weren't part of the fun group in here. But it was an awesome PD. The one thing that I will say, we got emails and feedback from the teachers. And the one I think that means the most to me was I'm entering my 18th year in Groveport, Madison, and this is the best training I've ever had. So it was an amazing 2 days for us and we're proud of our teachers. They did an excellent job.
One other quick thing, I know that you said this kind of sums up the whole thing. You can see the looks on their faces and hands in the air. This was not a sit and get sort of thing. These were, I mean, it's not like we had 100 high schoolers down here. There was lots of noise and laughing and applauding and a lot of excitement.
It was awesome. Thanks.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not sure if this is the right place to ask or if this should be during the superintendent's update. I was wanting to get an update on where we are with the JROTC. Is that you? or is that a good time for this, or where would be a good time to discuss that?
We can talk here. Mike, you want to come up?
So at a previous board meeting, the board hired a JROTC instructor, the senior instructor. He comes from Texas. He's got an amazing resume. We were we were intending to hire another one, the other instructor that's required for the program. That fell through. He's not going to be hired. And so right now, I think we have posted, is that right, Mr. Trace? We have posted that opportunity. We want to see applicants because we need to hire another instructor.
So, do I understand correctly that the project is now fully funded by the
Project is funded. It's considered fully funded in the sense that we are receiving the maximum reimbursement for almost half of each of the instructors' salaries.
And that's fairly unusual, right? That's a pretty good
Yes,
accomplishment.
usually you have to prove yourself for 2 years. You have to fund the program for a couple of years, show the Army that you can pull this off, that there's enough interest, and you also have the backing of the board and the treasurer at the time.
So did the second candidate have a lot to do with us getting that funding and getting down the road pretty far?
He was instrumental. We worked for a year. He and I worked together for a year to learn how to do the process, how to build a program.
So why then didn't we fill the slot with that person?
Yeah, he's not going to be able to do it. We can't match his compensation that he's receiving from Columbus
And why is that?
because our salary schedule doesn't allow that. Essentially, Columbus, their salary schedule pays him more than we can.
Would you confirm that?
It's true. Yeah, it's in the contract. So yeah.
So why would he give why would he give so much of his time?
Yeah, he was hopeful to work here. He really wanted to come to Groveport.
Okay. And was he given full credit for his military in our salary schedule? Was he given credit for that?
I believe so, yes.
Thank you.
How does that work when I didn't realize, so we had something with the salary schedule that gave credit. Does that mean you go up a pay grade or do you go up how many years or how does that work on the salary schedule?
It's of the 10 years on the salary schedule.
If you're in the military.
Anybody.
10 years, it says on television here. I don't think he was on television for 10 years.
No, up to 10 years on the salary. In the contract, you go up to 10 years.
And is there not credit in our system for military also?
Not additional about that.
Like levels, because it's like years and then levels stuff like 1 through 8.
Like bachelor's and master's and stuff like that. You got to follow the column, whatever he has, and then step 10. And
Okay.
Couldn't match it.
Is there a requirement for so many students to go further on after high school?
No, there's not that sort of requirement. The program requires that you maintain 10% of your eligible enrollment in the program. So if we had 2,000 students, you would think 200, but at the same time, there's a minimum of 100. So if you maintain at least 100 students, and it will continue to be a supported program and a funded program for us.
And what grade do they start?
9th grade.
9th? Okay. So they could do 4 years.
Yes,
Okay. Thanks.
you're welcome.
All right, on to item F, board items. Vice President, would you like to do the first one?
Oh, sure. The golf outing is this Friday. Thank you to all of our sponsors, volunteers, staff in the Treasurer's Department, as well as our admin team for putting that together. I know we're excited to the dollars raised this year will assist with our band, and I believe some of our athletics is what we voted on for May or discussed during May's board meeting last year. We had a great turnout. I know we've got some of our military folks coming again, Mr. Kirshner, some folks from the Guard, and I think some active Guard Reserve folks will be here as well. So thanks to everyone who signed up for the team and decided to sponsor our Educational Trust second annual golf outing.
right, and then next Monday, just a reminder, and I sent out an email last night as well. But we do have our boardmanship training on June 16th, 6:30 p.m. Mr. Kirshner, you had asked if it was going to be labeled as a special meeting. It will be. So we'll label that as a special meeting, so get the notice out. And then the instructor said it'll be about 2 to 2.5 hours. So anticipate about 2 to 2.5 hours for the boardmanship training next Monday.
Thank you.
All right, on to item G, superintendent's agenda.
Okay, next we have department reports. I'll ask Terry Thomas from CVS to come up first.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, my report stands as submitted. Just a few highlights. Bike Curve is our new electronic dispatch system. We presented it to Jamie and Paul back 3 years ago. It's taken us a while to get it going. It's real-time, on-time performance tracking, and it also tracks attendance tardiness. So if a driver clocks in late, the Bike Curve screen highlights it and it gets captured. So it'll make us more effective at tracking attendance and tardiness because a bus has to start on time to run on time. We're real excited. Teresa and the team have worked very closely with our new routing software. Versatrans is now Traversa, and Traversa interacts with the Zonar GPS and this Bike Curve dispatch system. This is super duper fun stuff when you're in the school bus business to have automated dispatch. So we have that here. Also, the child restraint systems, especially for our preschoolers, we had to go through and make sure they were all up to snuff. They get cleaned at the end of every year, and we check them for the expiration dates. That's all done. We're real happy about that. We've implemented the mirror grids for the drivers to check their mirrors, which puts them in a better position to not have scratches and dents and all that other good stuff. We haven't had mirror grids here before, so we're excited about that. Jared's on his way to the National School Bus Driver Rodeo in Austin, Texas again. If you recall, he took 3rd place last year. And then the picture here today is our team at the Ohio Association of Pupil Transportation Conference. You can see this was just this afternoon, right, Liz? So we have Michelle and Teresa and the entire CVS team that's there, and that was this afternoon, and there was a lot learned, and Liz is excited about it. And that's my report. Any questions?
I'm sorry, what was the name of the dispatch system that was coming up?
Bike Curve, BYTECURVE, Bike Curve.
All right.
Bike Curve. And we are we're crazy excited about it because it makes all the information available, and it's drag and drop. When there's a driver who doesn't show up, you can move the substitute driver right in. It captures it for payroll. It does all kinds of things, and we're excited because we can better interact with the schools on if a bus is running late, all that other good stuff. It has a new parent portal called My Ride K-12 that's going to be more effective than our previous one.
Thank you. The closed captioning was mistranslating, and I didn't think it was right. Thank you.
Thank you.
The other department report I have is human capital report. One of our recommendations that was just added for tonight, the search committee met for the middle school South principal, and then I interviewed and made the selection for that candidate. HR has been continuing the hiring process for both certified and classified employees, and we're actively involved in the onboarding process for new staff members as we bring them in, have another touch point, make connections. So that's kind of what's going on in the HR world. Unless Mark, is there anything you want to add?
How many do we have open positions at this point? Thanks.
Kind of just to give you a rundown. And I actually have a document. I have enough for everybody if you'd like me to. As you can see, the certified resignations are at 33, classified are at 23. We've had 3 administrators that have resigned, retirements. As you know, they changed a retirement age, not age, but service years. So everything was fine right around December 1st until they changed it to 32 years. And then we received a few other retirements. So we had 3 classified employees retire. New hires, we've had 37. Classified, we've had 15, and 1 administrator. Transfers have been I'm not really used to that many transfers, but we do provide our employees an opportunity, our certified staff, the opportunity to try different buildings also. So in different grade levels. And classified, we had 13.
Yeah.
Open certified positions are about 20 right now. And I have 4 on my desk that I'm waiting for tomorrow morning to call, or for them to call me back.
So you have 20 open teacher vacancies.
20 open teacher positions.
And
We
then you
do
have 4
have,
in the pipeline.
right, we do have several other positions like OT. Now these are certified positions also, but there's specific positions, OT, psych, SLP, positions like that. They're very difficult, and we're working with the union to try to make sure that we post those and get folks that come in and they'll be a part of us instead of an outside agency, which we're trying to avoid.
Is there any admin positions open?
Yeah, that's what I said next. In pipeline.
Admin positions. Well, there's 1 less, hopefully. And we do have 2 assistant principal positions that principals are interviewing for right now.
How many in the pipeline for the admin positions?
There were for the assistant principal position at Sedalia. I just looked the other day, and I think we had 33 folks that applied, and several of them applied for the Dunlow assistant principal position. Okay. I don't believe so. I think maybe 1 might have been. Okay.
I did have one other question. Are we good with our OPC staff? Like, are we looking good with that as far as our cooks and things like that? Yeah. Our OPC staff, are we okay there? Are we still?
No, we're not. I'm
You go to the podium. Sorry.
Sorry, I meant to ask that just so we're ready when it's the summer. But when we go back into school, how are we?
Well, there's 2 issues. We do have several classified folks that we're adding because we're adding some new intervention specialist rooms. So we had to have 2 educational aides. So we've added quite a few. We have a bid meeting on Thursday. So we're trying to arrange where people will be able to take positions if they choose. When we get to the end, we'll be able to post those positions. So.
Okay, so then we'll know like an update as far as like how many are open and all that next meeting.
Okay,
Then,
sure.
Can you provide that?
Oh yeah,
Okay,
no problem.
I have a follow-up to what we were talking about earlier. When it comes to our JROTC instructors, what prevents us from having a category of ROTC Army instructor that is not necessarily a category within our existing contract? What locks us into the particular union contract when we're creating such a unique and new position?
Well, I think we're always trying to work with the teachers union to abide by their contract.
Okay,
And-
so what provision was it that precluded us from meeting the need here in that?
Well, it would exceed the 10 years experience that
as a teacher?
as a teacher, yes, in the
Right.
contract.
So my question is, why couldn't this be classified as an Army instructor, a separate category, specific to this role?
Well, because we were looking at this as a teaching position.
Do we have to?
Do we have to? No.
I mean, couldn't it have been more of an administrative, if this person's a leader, very experienced, very key to the process, very key to us getting our funding?
I think you can do a lot of things, but I don't know that that's the direction we were looking.
Okay.
I mean, you can try a lot of different things, but I know that in the contract. We were trying to work within the contract.
Are we missing an opportunity to get this thing rolling to the best that we can by not being more creative?
Well, I think we have some other options that we have some folks, the other ROTC instructor is working on, trying to find other candidates also. Plus we have to post it.
I understand we're still working on it. I guess, honestly, I'm going to restate my question. Are we missing an important opportunity to launch this thing at its best by not thinking outside the box?
I guess the answer would be if we don't find someone by September, you could be correct.
So we're risking quite a bit by not.
I don't know that we're risking. We still have folks out there that we have to interview.
Okay.
So I mean, you have to. There's a reason why we don't let teachers come into the district at year 15, year 20, because that's a severe hit to the financial package.
Yeah. I would counter. There's a reason we're fully funded. And that's the specialty that person might have brought.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. It's not easy to get a JROTC off the ground like that. So anyway, thank you.
Adam, are you gonna move for the minutes?
G2, the treasurer recommends Groveport Madison Local Board of Education approve the minutes for the April meetings.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have Mrs. Gray as first, Mr. Kirschner as second. Any discussion?
And I'd also like to add to that also the May 2nd and May 21st meetings are also on there. So,
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
the May 2nd and May 21st meetings are also on there because we're in June already. So for the April and the May.
So the motion is amended to
Yes.
include all those dates. Thank you.
Sorry, correct. Is it okay if Libby still has first and John still has a second?
Yep.
Yes. I'm fine.
Okay. John, are you okay with that? Second?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, hearing no discussion, on to roll call, please.
Mr. Kirschner?
Aye.
Mrs. Dettelberger?
Aye.
Mr. Bauer?
Aye.
Ms. Gray?
Aye.
And Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
Motion passes. On to item 3.
Superintendent recommends to accept the minutes of the March 10th Parent Advisory Committee meeting.
So move.
Second.
All right, I have Mr. Kirschner as first and Mrs. Dottelberger as second. Any discussion? Hearing none, on to roll call, please.
Mr. Kirschner?
Aye.
Mrs. Dettelberger?
Aye.
Mr. Bauer?
Aye.
Ms. Gray?
Aye.
And Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
Motion passes. On to item 4.
The superintendent recommends that the Groveport Madison Schools Board of Education approve the following certificated personnel items as outlined on the certified board agenda attached.
So moved.
Second.
I have Mrs. Dottelberger as first, Mrs. Gray as second. Any discussion?
Yes, I would like to request that the items that are past us, in other words, the supplemental contracts for the 24-25 school year that has already passed us, be pulled off and voted on separately.
Okay. Go ahead.
And with that being said, at the last board meeting, there was over 200 plus contracts that were up for vote, and the board initially voted no on those contracts, and it was very concerning to me that we put the whole district in jeopardy of opening up in the school year because of voting instead of pulling out contracts like you're supposed to do. If you have issues with the contract, the board had voted overwhelmingly that the whole amount of 200 plus contracts were voted no on. That meant 200 contracts, up to 200 teachers without contracts, and the ability for our district to be able to hire teachers and staff to fill those vacancies would not have allowed our district to open up.
But we weren't voting on contracts.
Yes, we were voting on contracts.
We didn't have any contracts to vote on. We were voting on a conceptual sale. That's what we were voting on. We were voting on conceptual ideas because no contracts were presented. And no contracts, according to the communication that's happened since then, were even ready at that time.
We are
so,
voting on a list,
yeah.
just like we are tonight, of contracts, and there was 200 plus contracts. And
So are we
we
again
took a
voting?
chance
Are we again
of
voting
losing
on
all of
contracts?
those
Excuse me, let's-
teachers and staff by voting no on those contracts.
Can I
And
just,
that's very disturbing to me that would happen. Thank goodness we had another vote to correct that, and we have those voted on. But the proper procedure is if you have an issue with a particular contract, you pull that contract out and you vote on it separately.
Right. And I would also say that to that point, the beauty of what happened last month is here are a whole list of contracts where we had employees working without contracts. So I would say a little bit more due diligence and a little bit more patience would be in order. And the idea that we vote once not to do something isn't shutting down the district.
It would have shut down the district.
That's your opinion,
Yeah, that's my opinion.
right?
and
Well, I
Because
wanna
here
get-
we are fixing the votes, or trying to fix the votes from the contracts that we missed before. So I guess, wait a minute. It didn't shut down the district to not have contracts. We just let the people work. So we've got work to do. I appreciate your viewpoint on that, but seriously, from my viewpoint, we need to be better prepared. And part of that is not lumping so much together and ignoring maybe issues that need to be addressed. So thank you.
Real quick, in the spirit of our boardmanship training that we are having next Monday, if we can talk one at a time. I believe Mrs. Dowdleberger, did you have something to say?
yes, I heard Miss, yes, I did. I wanted to, say also that it, in the world of just HR, all of the professions, professional licensure people from healthcare to educators it's not a good market. You know, we're all fighting for the same people. And so even if it may, and everyone has their opinion, which I've heard both Ms. Gray and Mr. Kirshner, I think it's also important the perception that we put out as far as those that are looking at our school and our district. They're watching our board meetings. They're looking at how we interact. They're looking at how we manage this particular part because no one wants their position in limbo, as you see even with federal employment. They don't know if there's a reduction in force or not. So we are in the same boat when we do that. So as Ms. Gray stated, yes, I understand your position. Mr. Kirshner may agree, may not agree, but we still want to make sure that we don't lump everyone in. You know, let's pull out what we need to pull out and be mindful about other folks kind of dating us a little bit, watching and seeing what we do before they decide if they want to ask us out on the second date. And as Mr. Trace mentioned, he's got several people in the pipeline, but if this is kind of what they see, that could also dwindle his pipeline number where he can kind of keep going in that suppository to try to move him to other positions. So just wanted to share my thoughts and thank you for your time.
I appreciate that. I will add one last thought, and that is, I think teachers are also watching, and they want a safe place to work. And if you blindly stamp things, they might not get that. So I think that's part of what was attempting to be addressed last time. So thank you.
I just make a comment here that I just went through the list from last board meeting, and not one of them was for a prior commitment. It was all for this upcoming school year.
And I would also just like to make a mention that, you know, that no one here is blindly, so that could be your version, but I will speak for myself. No one's blindly doing anything. And I do believe that there may be a margin of error in this instance. And we have like almost 400 supplemental contracts a year that we are doing in addition to, you know, the resignations, new people onboarding. And so this is a one out of those 400. So just for the record, am I wrong, Mr. Trace, when I say that? Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I think we had an issue under the microscope, and I think we had an opportunity, obviously, to catch, that oversight, and we are now. And Libby, that's what I was referring to. We have today um, contracts for supplemental work that is completed now. So we have a specific job that ended at the end of the school year, and now today, and I don't even know if that's legal or right, we're voting to approve a contract for services already rendered that we should have voted on a year ago. So I'm just pointing that out.
But correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Coyer, this is just for the payment, correct? This has nothing to do with the performance.
Right.
Or
Just
anything
so
like
I
that.
can pay them.
And just for point of clarification, can we restate the motion?
Yeah. Yeah.
Was there a full motion from you, Mr. Kirschner? I wanted to make sure I have my
we need
notes.
a
Yeah, I want to restate the motion. So, John, you said you want a motion to pull all 24 and 25 contracts
Just
from,
to be pulled out and voted on separately, yes.
The supplemental,
Well,
correct, Mr.
that was
Kirschner?
Supplemental.
That was the question. Like, there's the first one is an administrative contract for 24, 25. You don't want that one. You're just talking for 4 people.
Supplemental.
That's what I'm getting clarification.
The supplementals that are already complete. If we have 24,
So there's 4 of them.
yeah. Why? Okay. So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Why would we be approving 24, 25? Is that would that be new hires that we just brought in for the tail end of the year? Why would we now be approving that instead?
Well, I think the one, well, the looks like the seventh. I might have marked this. The 7th grade softball looks like it's an update. So maybe they split during the year instead of doing full time. So that's kind of an update, obviously. Stepping off to college, I don't know that one. Is that a new one or?
It's not a new one. It just wasn't.
Can you go to the podium so we have it for the record?
So the
for
head baseball
board?
and Stepping off college was missed last year, and then the 2 softballs are just an update from this spring. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Say that again.
Can you
please.
restate it in the mic, please, Mr.
Sure.
Schultz?
So the 2 that are on, let me get the 2 softball were updates because they ended up splitting the supplemental, and the stepping off to college was something that we didn't receive, so we had to make sure that we took care of that. And then and Mr. Kirschner, to be honest with you, the baseball one was missed. We've set up a process now that we bring over our athletic supervisor to make sure we do this before every board meeting and after every board meeting to make sure we don't miss. But I will tell you this, missing a supplemental by an HR person missing a supplemental is like misspelling a word in a letter in the 80s. Meaning there is no misspell or spell check for you. I'm just saying, it's not an uncommon thing to miss somebody when you have 400 supplementals. I'm not trying to make an excuse because I take full responsibility for it, but I just want you to understand is that when you have 400 of those and you're counting on your principals to get those to you, and they're busy and they're trying to make sure they get everything to us in a timely fashion. But I think we do have a process in place that's going to be more efficient.
And just for clarification, these are supplemental contracts that we're voting on that have already occurred. These are not upcoming supplemental contracts. Okay.
One more question. The Washington DC trip, I know these are stipends.
Mhm.
Was that for Washington DC next year?
No, this year.
So these
Yep.
were people who
Yep.
did things this year. The service
Correct.
has already happened.
Yep. And that's
So-
pretty common to
Yes.
get at the end of the year.
Yeah.
And we voted on the trip timely because that was a different motion.
Yeah, that was
different board meeting.
just the trip.
I'm just
Correct.
asking for clarification if we're pulling those out as well, since it was work that already happened.
But are we pulling those out, or are we just pulling? I think we're just pulling the 4. We're just pulling the 4 supplemental employments: baseball, softball, because they split, and then Stepping off college. Correct, John? It's just those 4 going out.
Correct.
So not the stipends. Okay.
Right. Nothing
Thank
else,
you,
just
Mr.
those
Kirschner.
4.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Thanks, John, for clarifying. Okay, so we have a first for John.
Well, wait, and yeah, no, you need a
We need a
second.
second.
I'll second it if you need a second. So, but I wanted to make a comment on what everybody was talking about at the last meeting. We have contracts that we're supposed to be voting on, but we don't have the contracts in front of us. So when he says you're voting blindly, it's because you are voting blindly. You don't have the contracts. That's a problem. Then we got the contracts and the contracts are not accurate. We don't know what these contracts say. So why somebody would bring me, a board member, a contract that I don't even see and then say vote on it, and then you vote on it. You don't know how many days, work days there are. You don't know what the uh, salary, the SERS. Well, you should know the pickup on the pickup just from that, but you don't know the number of days. You don't know the carryover or the vacation days. It's all different. And for all the contracts, there is no set schedule. I don't know where those numbers come from for each employee. It is set schedule. Where is
Mr.
it?
Trace, do you mind
Where
answering
is
that?
it?
Yeah, there's a set
Because,
schedule that was voted on.
well, I know for
And
the,
it has
okay, I know for the 50/50 for the SER, and I know for the dollar amount, and I know for, what is the other? And then the contracts
Yeah.
that we were given have the
This
wrong,
is the 24-25 administrative salary and pickup schedule, where
right.
it goes over all the grades, the amount. Plus, we also have this was all board approved. This is the salary schedule 24-25, 25-26, 26-27, which tells you what grade increment in the years of experience.
And
And
Mr.
also in
Trace,
the
does
teacher
any of
salary
those
schedule.
papers that you're looking at say how many days that employee is gonna work, or how many days they're gonna have for, carryover on their, vacation days? Do any
Carryover
of
for
those documents you just referenced have that information?
carryover for vacation days for administrators is up to 60. You can't exceed
It's
60.
different for everyone on the contract. Everyone's different. Do either of those documents you're referencing have anything that tells you what those are?
Well, each one is different, but
And those
I
say,
mean, there's
can you point that out to me? Cause I have those documents right here and I'm not finding that on there. Are you telling me that the ones you have are different than the ones I have?
no, I don't believe so. I mean, I just know
You're
how
saying that
many.
they have those, the
No,
number of days? No,
I'm
they
not.
don't have the number of days.
Not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So the contracts we had, we don't know which employee has 60 carryover vacation days, which ones have 0 accrued vacation days.
But you could just give me a call and I could tell you who has those days.
We're at a board meeting.
Well, I
I'm
understand.
being asked to vote on a contract, and that
Right.
contract should be in front of us telling us that. We shouldn't have to call. I don't have time to call. And the contracts that I did receive when I did ask for them, and I had to wait. I had to
Well-
wait. I had to wait for a while because they weren't ready. But we have Teresa Ritchie is, lo and behold, she's a principal now, according to these contracts. So, you know, I have a problem with you asking me to vote on a contract that's not in front of me. Then, after the board votes on it, because some board members did vote to approve these contracts, those contracts read things like, there are no assistant principals that we voted on. Are you aware of that? Teresa Ritchie, our 2 transportation personnel are now principals in their contracts. This is a problem, and I know
I think we're
there's a lot of
teetering.
work to do, but that's why the contract should be in front of us when we're voting on them, so we can say, hey, look, there's a typo here. There's an error here. We can't approve these like that. It's oversight.
I think we're teetering on, again, we cannot speak on specific individuals, please.
Are these contracts public record? Yes? Yes, they're public record. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think the best way to address this is through policy governance and to look at our policies and just address how we want our information presented to us so the staff can respond accordingly. And I think we should be pleased that we are paying attention and catching discrepancies and problems. It shows that we're doing our job, but I think we can do it better with the correct policies.
So what I will say, I definitely appreciate all the commentary. I think the biggest thing as we're speaking about boardmanship and how we treat our staff and the type of culture we want to show in Groveport, it's very important that some of these things could be discussed in a conversation, whether it's an email or whether it's, I know everyone can't do phone calls, I get that. And that could have been something as simple, hey, going forward, Mr. President, can you coordinate for our board meetings to have contracts attached to the agenda? We get our notification of what's going to be on the agenda over a week in advance. Maybe not as early this time as in before, but we've been trying to make sure we're really good at getting that, Mr. President and our superintendent, as well as legal counsel and Miss Lori, our secretary. So with that, I think it's important also in the way that we have these conversations with our staff here, we want to be in a way that shows a culture of where we can work together, that it's not bad to be honest about mistakes and taking responsibility, because it is very hard to get educators right now. It is very hard to find good people who are willing to work in certain areas. So I just want to say that I'm not saying that anything's wrong, but then also as a president prior, we do, as your elected or chair of our board, they do review those things for mistakes, and at that point, that is when those things are addressed and work directly with HR as well. So it's not that we vote on them and then when the person who is the signator on those items are not checking those things and making those corrections, even them being as minor as they are. There have been a couple times I've saw a couple things and I've worked with the department to make those corrections, or if I had additional like those minor corrections. And I also, what's on our spreadsheet for the contracts, that schedule that's there, it is a part of our GMLEA master agreement as well as the OPSI agreement to kind of follow along with where those dollar values came from, so then you can see exactly how the salary is rendered. So I'm not trying to debate with anybody, but I also want us to be mindful of the culture and what we put out as a board. If we're talking about boardmanship on Monday, and this doesn't feel very boardmanship-y to me. And that's just my comment. I'm not, it's not a debate, it's just a statement. Thank you.
If I could say a couple things. One is, if we're specifically talking about administrative contracts, there's a generic administrative contract, which I included in my board update with a link this week, that every administrator, with the exception of the treasurer and superintendent, who have contracts directly with the board, that same format is used. Every position is spelled out, what the salary range at every step, with every year of experience, with every degree of education. There's the pickup schedule. There's how many days associated with each one. There are 260 employees, 240 employees, 220 employees. There are schedules for all this. So when contracts are created, you go to the schedule, you put the appropriate location that goes into the contract to do that. Now, I want to also tell you, historically, since I've been here, the board has never seen teacher or administrative contracts in advance. When a contract recommendation, it's a name and a salary or whatever information goes to the board, the length of the contract. After the board approves it, then the contract has been created. Along with that, this year, we're implementing frontline HR system, which is new. The May contracts were the first time we used those contracts. And to be quite honest, when it was requested for those contracts, the first request was for SERS administrators, which there weren't any that were approved, but that was something that I missed in an email. Then the request was to get the contracts. If there were mistakes, part of that could have been because we were rushing to get it because they requested, they wanted the information immediately. So when you drop everything and you rush through things, there are sometimes that mistakes are made. So I know it sounds like I'm making excuses, but this is a fact of the matter. And if the board wants to see actual contracts for every employee before it goes to the board to vote, we can do that. It's going to slow down the process a lot, and you're going to have hundreds of pages of reading to do every board meeting in the spring. So I just want to make you aware that that has not been the practice that I've ever experienced in multiple districts, and I'm not aware where teacher and or administrative contracts have been created and given to the board in advance. That's been a result of the approval of the contract recommendation.
Also, probably from an HR perspective, if I'm not mistaken, with what in the healthcare side, that also would then hinder you giving a tentative job offer. So to kind of get that onboarding process rendered, if we want to be quick with onboarding, fast with getting our folks started, so they know they have a job and they don't look elsewhere, it would be advantageous for us to get, once we have someone, approve them when we get that the selection has been made by that principal, administrator, whomever, so we don't have them in the pipeline waiting and they have an opportunity to be poached by another district or look elsewhere. So that helps with our time to hire as well.
Right. And I will agree with what you're saying. I honestly don't believe that we have the time to review that many individual contracts. I think what we've fallen victim to here is a lack of trust, which was based on contract showing up that some of us weren't made aware of, privy to earlier, and that had been modified without our knowledge, and with a specific, and this has nothing to do with the administration, this is our own board function, and with, in this particular instance, some hyper vigilance with a particular situation that we had. So I think things kind of fell into the microscope here, and also when we saw an administrative contract coming through for 5 years, I was looking for the curveball. I was looking for the hook. I was looking for the surprise, because that's what I've been trained to do here. Because the last time we did one, or not the last time, but when we did one, I got hit with things we never discussed. So I think that's kind of where well, it's on the record. It's on the record. You called the board, a couple board members, and you made changes to the contract. So that's where there was just a level of trust that I think we can work on through boardmanship and just through working together. So I think that's what this particular instance is a culmination of, and I know we can do better. Thank you.
Are you referring to like your time previously on the board? I got confused on
No,
this.
I'm referring to a 5-year contract where we had an executive session, and we went in, and somebody came back, and the contract had all changed, and all kinds of extras had been added. And when I said, where did this contract come from? The comment was made, I pulled the board members and basically rewrote the contract after we'd had an executive session. So I got blindsided, and we're voted right there live. It's all on video. You can shake your head all you want.
And
I asked for the minutes to reflect that an individual board member had round robin serial communication and changed the contract. That wasn't included in our minutes, but it's all there on video. So you can shake your head and say it didn't happen. It didn't. I'm just telling you it did. I'm just telling you that caused me to distrust when I saw another administrative 5-year contract coming around. So thank you.
And it didn't. And what happened was there was a conversation with our legal counsel and said individual. So you keep putting out these false narratives. I don't know what your gain is, and you speak of boardmanship and trust, but you constantly do the same thing. And so the moment I say something, you're going to come back and say something else, and we do this tennis match. But I just want to make it clear, we did things legal, morally, and ethically, and I worked through legal counsel with everything that was done. So whatever video, that's fine. This is also on record, but you can't keep making statements or sneak attacks rather, and hide your hand. Like it's you want to talk about working together and trust. This is just not the way to go about it. I don't think we'll ever have a resolve with that, with this behavior and the culture that we're putting out to our community, the culture that is here for our staff. Like it's toxic. It's not good. It's just not good. And you have your perception, I have mine. I can agree to disagree, but then after someone says something, you always have to come back and say something else, which then makes someone have to say something, as you say it as if someone has done something wrong and you put your spin on it, and it's not a healthy environment. It's just not. So, but I yield my time back again. As I stated, whatever, if anyone has any questions about Latoya Denise Dowdell Burger on this board, you feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to pull us back, if that's okay, to the original the motion. We had a first by Mr. Kirschner, a second by Mrs. Walsh.
And let me read it again.
Yes, if you could read it.
This is a motion just to pull the 4 supplemental appointments for 24-25 off and to vote separately.
Yeah.
Correct. Just those 4.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm not going to just sit here. Okay. There's a comment made, and I would like to respond.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I put forward what I am confident I can show was just a historical fact. I'm told I'm being said that it's being expressed how we're not putting on a good face to the public, and then I'm accused of hiding stuff, hooks, sneak attacks. Nope. I was explaining where I was sitting and what my position was. And then, so basically, everything that you are complaining about, you just projected forward. It doesn't help any more than what you're complaining about. So I appreciate that you don't like what I said, but I certainly, I can certainly demonstrate that it wasn't a sneak attack. It wasn't inaccurate. There's nothing like that. It was me reflecting what happened, and why there is a level of distrust, as you are confirming. Thank you.
And I will say that I have gotten administrative contracts in the past before we voted on them, so I don't know what the big deal is.
All right.
hundreds, I don't know. We got 100 administrators. I mean, if you have a administrative contract for a vice principal and it's always the same, that's one thing. But there are contracts that were on there that aren't always the same. So maybe just put those separately and give us those. That would work.
I think
But
we're,
I'm not going to vote on a contract that I don't have in front of me that may be different because that's what it was this time. It was different
I think we're at a point
in
where
multiple ways.
we are all going to agree to disagree on this. So if we can go to roll call, please, Mr. Coyer.
Okay, so this is the motion to pull the four out. First John, second Catholic. Mr.
Correct.
Kirchner? This is the pull of those four out. Mr. Kirchner?
Aye.
Mrs. Dowderberger?
Aye.
Mr. Bauer?
Aye.
Ms. Gray?
Aye.
And Mrs. Walsh?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, so now we need to vote on the original.
We need to vote right now. Now we're going to vote on the original. And we had a motion of Latoya was first and Libby was second on the
Yes.
original, minus the what we just pulled out.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Under roll call, please.
Mr. Kirchner?
Aye.
Mrs. Dowderberger?
Aye.
Mr. Bauer?
Aye.
Ms. Gray?
Aye.
And Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
Motion passes. Now on to, and if you could just restate the motion, please, for the.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to write all this down. So now the new motion is just for the 24-25 supplemental contracts. There's four of them. Baseball, the two split for softball, and the stepping up for college. And
So moved.
And I move that the top line item from that contract be removed and
Don't
voted
have a
on
second
separately.
yet.
We need a second first.
Second.
All right.
first
Miss-
was Libby, second was Latoya.
Yeah, Mrs. Gray as first, Mrs. Dowdellberger as second.
What is the motion? I need to.
It's for us to vote on the ones that we pulled out.
Mr. Corey, can you reread the
Yeah,
motion, please?
The new motion now is to vote on the four supplemental contracts from 24-25 that we pulled out before.
And I'm moving to separate the first line item from the other line items and vote on that one separately.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, so I have Mr. Kirschner as first, Mrs. Walsh as second, and that is Mr. Corey. When you're ready, please reread the motion that's on here.
All right, sorry, give me time. Okay, so now I have a motion by John, second by Kathy, just to pull the number one first line item of baseball college off of this motion.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we can go to the discussion.
I have questions with that then. Just, I don't know if I'm looking at our attorney for those that are watching online, just because I have questions that I don't know what I'm allowed to ask specifically. And then I don't know. I have questions. So I don't know if I can ask for a recess so I can ask my questions. So if I do ask them, that I'm in compliance and not saying anything that puts the board put the district. Is that okay? I don't want to, and then I don't want it to look as if I'm not trying to be transparent either. So I'm saying all this like on the record, like what do I do? So we're right, Miss Barrow.
So what you have questions about the
Just with the
procedure?
Yeah, the
Is that what you have?
procedure, and then the pulling out, and then my question, if like, just so I understand where I stand on with the pull out, and I just have questions about that particular line item, and I don't know what I'm allowed to say here on mic and on camera and on YouTube, and I don't want to do anything that's wrong, and I don't want to not be transparent. So just tell me how I can stay within the confines, or can we go to recess and I can answer my questions really quick and then come back? I don't know. what
Is
to
it
do.
a substantive question or
Yeah.
procedural? It's on the
Subs-
substance.
Both and well, more substantive than it is procedural, ma'am. To be honest, for me, if we're going to have the discussion,
So
and they're not questions for the board members, it would be legal
Okay.
questions that I have.
then you can ask for a recess That's up to the board president.
Correct. I just wanted to make sure I understood what to do next.
Yep.
Thank you. I apologize to my board members, but I needed to know.
Would that be a recess or would that be executive session?
My understanding is that you,
I have I have a question. Now, the board needs executives. So I just have
not for the board to go back for a
yeah,
discussion.
I just have a question
Correct.
that I need to ask, and I don't know. I don't want to mess up. Be honest. I just don't want to do it.
You can ask for a recess.
If you don't mind, I have a suggestion that I hope helps. I have the same concern. I was actually wanting to ask, given our policy, and we can't, we have to not. We're saying according to our policy, we're not going to discuss individuals. How in the world, when you get down to wanting to make a decision on an individual contract, do we address that? So, how about we table line item 1? And include that in include a conversation in executive session so we can all get the answer together, just not one board member. Is there any problem with that?
So the
We
Yeah.
have to vote on this tonight for
Yeah.
them to be paid.
We can't.
Correct.
And according to the contract, we have to pay within a certain amount of time.
Right.
Yeah.
At the end.
That's correct.
That's my
So you can't table it and then come back after executive session. That's not how your board agenda is structured.
Can you postpone?
That's gotta get paid.
So do we have,
we can't postpone because
It has to get paid per the contract by a certain day after the season's over.
I see. So are we saying that the individuals on the item that we are about to vote on have not been paid at all?
Correct. But they did the work, but they haven't been paid yet.
Is that typical?
No, because we missed like we explained earlier, the softball was updated because they split. The Step-on College were waiting for it, and then like Mr. Chase said, the one baseball coach we dismissed that last winter when we did spring sports.
But it's typical that we
But it's
pay them at the end.
Yes,
of
at the end of the season, correct.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, okay. It's
Yeah.
typical. They're not getting paid regularly.
No, they get paid
That's
at the
what
end of
I
the
was
season,
saying.
but
When
I
I said
gotta
it's
pay
a
them
typical,
quickly, right? So
I meant
gotta
the
get it.
payroll. The
Right.
payroll is typical.
Yeah.
They get paid in a lump at the end.
At the end of the season, correct.
Okay.
That's why.
Thanks.
So I guess that's kind of what I was trying to ask, but I probably wouldn't ask it that way. So
That's why it needs
I'm good.
voted on
Thank
tonight,
you.
right?
Okay.
Because the work's already been done. Because
You're
it's for last year.
all right, so let's get back to, so no recess, correct? You're good?
Yeah, and I apologize. I just didn't want to do
All right.
anything that.
So I just want to be clear. So when we're voting on these, we're not voting on the contract to hire the person.
No, these are
We're just voting to pay the
for
person.
the work already done.
Because the work has already been performed.
Season's already over.
This work
I
has
mean,
been
when we
performed.
do contracts at all, in general, when we vote on a contract in general.
I didn't hear your question, Ms. Walsh.
My question is, when we're voting on these classified contracts, we're just voting on to pay them, not to hire them?
Well, like for the 25, I'm sure Mark, but for 25, 26 supplementals that you see below that, we're catching them now too. So they can come do the job, but again, they don't get paid till the season's over on every supplemental. Okay, they just missed the baseball one, so that's what we're doing now. And last year, I think they missed one too, if I remember right, or a couple also. But again, they just missed the baseball one. Now the softball one was split anyways, was during the season. And the Step-on College, we got that. So, but again, this is work they've already did.
Okay. So I now have a follow-up question, just so I understand. So let's say there's 12 games in a season, and you only make one or two. Are you saying at the end of the supplemental contract you get the same whether you're there every time or not?
That would be maybe Mark can come up with me because I'm the treasurer, but how it happened in my previous 20 years, if a coach quits halfway, usually then a supplemental is modified for only to give weeks or the games or what they worked, and then whoever the new coach is gets the other part of the modification of the contract.
And that's how we've done it in the past because we've had
Okay,
that
good.
same situation
Right.
happen.
But yes, but in my case, all these coaches, the two softball, the baseball, and the Step-on College finished their contract. They did the whole season.
Thank you.
All right, so let's, we need to go back to Mr. Coyer. Do you mind reading the
so-
motion that we are voting on?
So I think the new motion right now is to pull just the first line of the 24-25 supplemental contracts off. Correct? And that was first by John, second by Kathy.
Correct.
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 So it's just the first line. Okay. All right. Sorry, I'm trying to get all this so it's correct.
On to roll call when you're ready.
All right, give me 2 seconds. Okay. All right. Mr. Kirschner? Aye. Mrs. Dattelberger?
Aye.
Mr. Bauer?
Aye.
Ms. Gray?
Aye.
And Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
Motion passes. Now, Mr. Collier, can you
Right,
read?
Okay, so now I'm assuming the new motion is going to be for the three ones, the 2 softballs and the Stephen College. So I need a first and a second for just those.
That-
We already,
yeah,
we already
Mrs.
had that on to the
Mrs.
original.
Gray and Mrs. was first. Mrs.
Oh,
Daudelberger was
yeah.
second.
Okay, sorry. All right, let me put that one on. And that was Libby and Latoya.
Correct.
And this is just for the 3 that are left, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right. So right now we're voting on just the 3 that are left. Okay, Mr. Kirschner.
Please clarify the vote.
We are voting on just the 3 24-25 supplemental contracts that are left. The 2 softball and the Stephen for college.
Correct. And we have not yet voted on the individual.
Not that one yet.
Correct. Thank you. Aye.
Mrs. Daudelberger?
Aye.
Mr. Bauer?
Aye.
Ms. Gray?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
Motion passes. Now we need to have a first and second for the, if you don't mind rereading that motion, please.
Okay, so now the next motion is, actually, sorry, it says superintendent recommends, sorry, Jamie. Superintendent recommends Grove Board of Education approve the first line of the 24-25 supplemental contracts.
So moved.
Second.
I have Mrs. Gray as first. Mr. Kirschner as second.
Libby first, John second. Okay. All right. Are we ready for roll call?
Yes, please. On to roll call.
All right. Mr. Kirschner?
No.
Mrs. Dattelberger?
Aye.
Mr. Bauer?
Aye.
Ms. Gray?
Aye.
And Mrs. Walsh?
No.
Motion passes. On to item 5.
Can we just, quickly?
Sorry. Yes.
So, we do have a freshly approved, I won't say in addition, a change to our staff. We have Lindsay Himes. Lindsay, if you want to come up to the mic. Lindsay has been with us as a teacher, as an assistant principal, and she has been selected to be the new principal of Middle School South. So, Lindsay, welcome to Groveport, Madison.
Thank you guys very much. I want to say thank you to the board and thank you for Deputy Superintendent for your support. I've been at the high school for 7 years and I am truly grateful to work for Groveport. Every day does not feel like work. I've had a lot of positive influences throughout teaching as well as in my time as an assistant principal. And I also was able to go over to South and work for a few weeks. They have a wonderful staff. I'm very sad to leave the high school, but I'm very happy to see what we can do at South. So thank you guys very much for this opportunity and believing in me. It's great to be a cruiser. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Ms. Himes.
And Lindsay, you are permitted to leave at this point. Okay. The superintendent recommends Groveport Madison Schools Board of Education approve the following non-certificated personnel items as outlined on the attachment.
So moved.
Second.
I have Mrs. Daudelberger as first. Mrs. Gray as second. On to discussion. Hearing none, on to roll call, please.
Mr. Kirschner? Mrs. Daudelberger?
Aye.
Mr. Bauer?
Aye.
Ms. Gray?
Aye.
And Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
Motion passes. On to item 6.
Superintendent recommends that the Groveport Madison Board of Education approve the service agreement with H. Scott Lockett, also known as Ben Nevis Consulting LLC for school psychology services.
I so move.
Second.
I have Mr. Kirschner as first. Mrs. Gray as second. On to discussion. Hearing none, on to roll call.
Mr. Kirschner?
Aye.
Mrs. Daudelberger?
Aye.
Mr. Bauer?
I'm going to abstain as a city employee. Yeah, I'm
Yep,
abstaining on
gotcha.
this.
Mrs. Gray?
Aye.
And Mrs. Walsh?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Superintendent recommends Groveport Madison Board of Education approve the special education contract with Reach Education Service LLC and I Am Boundless.
So moved.
I have Mrs. Dowdell-Berger as first, Mrs. Gray as second. On to discussion. Hearing none, on to roll call, please.
Mr. Kirschner?
Aye.
Mrs. Dowdell-Berger?
Aye.
Mr. Bauer?
Aye.
Ms. Gray?
Aye.
And Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
Motion passes. On to item 8.
Okay, item 8 is a discussion item. This is board policy review, first read for the quarterly update. And we've submitted those for your review.
So moved.
It's just
Oh,
discussion.
I
It's
thought
no
it was,
discussion.
I'm so sorry.
I was gonna say, I have not been able to get through all of these.
Yeah, and I got to, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I would like to thank legal counsel and OSBA. I did reach out and ask my questions and was able to get some clarification on some of the changes, especially with some of the new bills that have passed. So just would like to thank them for that and would encourage colleagues to reach out, especially with some of the changes in the language where you look at the strike through the red area and then the green changes for those policies that we have.
You can see as you go through, the vast majority of this are required updates from either laws that have passed or nomenclature that has changed. So again, anything that is a red line is a change from our existing policy, and green would be new language that was in there. So I don't know if anybody has questions or comments or other things for us to consider in this.
Some of these are multiple choice. Is that true?
Yes, that's correct.
So,
I think. Pardon me. Oh, I was going to say that on the policies that require choices that aren't just a yes no type item, I think it would be beneficial to have that as part of a meeting or a special meeting where we can take the time to go through them carefully. Thank you.
I think that's a good idea.
And,
Go ahead.
and I was gonna say with that, then is there any way that we can provide sample language prior to, or like, I guess we can have the discussion, but it'd be good to kind of know or have any additional changes if there's yes, no, or modifications we could make if we're going to change it from the recommendation where we can customize it, that we do that prior to that meeting so we can look at that if that is going to be the case.
And also, if there's any changes that you're wanting, if we could run that through OSBA to make sure that it is correct, that we can change that language or reword it, because we want to make sure that we're in compliance.
And I would challenge that idea and ask us to think about the transparency of it. I think if we are going to have our own ideas, which we will, and share these things, I think it's best to be done in public where everybody has a view of it, not through any other individual communications. So I think
I'm not saying make
Yeah,
it not
no, I'm not
transparent. I'm
accusing
just saying
anybody.
make sure that your suggestions or changes have been approved by OSBA, that it's gone through the legal review before you come to the meeting. You can present it, but just make sure that it's been cleared by them to make sure that we're following any laws. I'm not saying don't
got you.
present it. I'm saying just make sure it goes through and get the approval by OSBA.
And I'm definitely not saying not presented. I guess for me, with all the conversations and everyone's ideas, it's good to kind of have that prior to the board meeting or the special meeting. So when I can come prepared and informed to have the discussion and maybe ask for clarification on what you meant versus it being presented. And then I may need another time to then come back again. And I don't know what our deadline is on getting these passed as well. That was my other question I had, Mr. Collier. When is our D-Day for this, so we can work within the confines of that date as well?
I mean, we got these in April or first part of May, so I'm assuming we get them as long as we get them probably done by July 31st. They're really not a due date, but they're quarterly, so you want to kind of review them for, June, and maybe having our meeting in June or July, and then get them approved. That's why this is our first reading. And then you can come up with your questions, look at them all, get your questions, and like you said, make sure you follow the law. But then, the next meeting we have, or if we have to have another meeting, we can do that.
So if we hold a special meeting in July and then we can vote on it in the second meeting in July.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had a question as far as all of these new things are going to be coming down from the state. For example, all the cell phone use policies and all of that kind of stuff. They're making modifications as we go. So when does that usually hit with OSBA having those? How long? Once something happens?
If I remember the law, and Burrow will probably help, but I think it's 90 days. So once they make a law, it's 90 days after that, before it becomes effect.
So we have to adjust our policies within 90 days to make sure we're in compliance.
And of course, with the biennial budget and all this stuff, June 30th is going to be a big date. So that the next quarter, I'm sure, is going to be huge.
Yeah, because what I've been reading is what's been proposed. There's a lot of changes that we're going to have to make, and we're going to have to make them really fast.
Okay, so I have a couple questions here. First off, is the parental involvement policy. It says here that has to be, we're required to adopt that policy by July 1st. So, I mean, the only meeting we'll have to either have a special meeting or we'll have to do it during our boardmanship meeting on that one issue, right? And that's July 1st. I thought we were here today to discuss some of these, so I did want to know why. I saw the school board meeting popped out to me, that there was language being taken out, and I was wondering how that change was made, who made that change, why that's being recommended. Did somebody on the board recommend that change?
Which one are you talking about?
Can you go to what page are you speaking of in the PDF,
I'm
Ms.
talking
Walsh?
about policy BD.
Can you give me the page number in the PDF, please? Like when you download, are you have a paper?
1, 2. No, I don't know about your board package, but my board package doesn't have page numbers really. It has.
I'm
1 and
sorry.
2.
I apologize. I was looking at the electronic version.
What was the policy again? It was BD what?
Just BD, right?
BD.
Just BD.
Mine's electronic, so I'm so sorry.
From the notes section, it says the recommendation summary is revised to remove language allowing board members to participate virtually in board meetings. That looks like.
And that was new law. I know we got an update on it.
Probably during COVID you could do that, but not anymore.
Yes, they updated it about
do it virtually.
60 days ago.
Well, that's not what I don't think that's what the law.
It was in April. April
I don't think I
something. April 13th.
Yeah, I think so because we looked at it.
I just want to clarify, each of the policies may be tied to a different law with a different effective date.
Correct.
But if the law requires a policy update, then it's got to be done before the effective date of the law.
Correct.
Okay.
So the policy BD that I'm talking about doesn't say it's a required policy or anything like that. And on the notes back, it doesn't say anything about that being
We got
notification about that.
School Board Association. I have AT&T. It's terrible here.
So we can get an update. We can get an update based.
It was a law that was passed.
Yep.
Do you want me to see if our OSBA rep can come in if we have?
I think for that meeting, I think it would be great to have the OSBA rep, Mr. President, as well as legal counsel if possible, just to ensure those two things crosswalk.
Okay.
And I know for me, I don't think any of us, the question was, did the board ask for any? No, from my understanding, I know I didn't submit anything in this update. This is the traditional update that we receive from our policy provider. So there's nothing new, like a new policy added on or anything like that.
And on the back page, on the second page of this, it says, even though school board of education and its committees and subcommittees are public bodies, Ohio Revised Code 121.221B5A provides that no public body may hold virtual meetings or hearings with the members of the public body either receive compensation or are elected to the general public to their position. On the back side of that.
Yeah, but this doesn't say anything about receiving compensation.
No. If you receive compensation, which you guys do, or you're elected, you can't have virtual meetings. That's what Ohio Revised Code 121.221B5A says. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe it'll be beneficial, I think, for all of us to have our OSBA rep a part of this.
You know what I mean?
A part of what, please?
The special meeting we were talking about to discuss the policies.
So if there's any
we may
clarifying
have to have that
questions we
before,
have.
maybe before July 1. If some of these are July 1, we may have to have that.
Right. One of
Before
we're
June
not
30.
we're not piling that onto our boardmanship. We're talking about a regular meeting or special meeting.
Right.
Correct. Separate of
Thank you.
the boardmanship training. All right, so we're looking at before July 1.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna ask, as it is, let's see, it is
Not-
June 10th. Would Tuesday, June 24th work with everyone?
I can't do any more Tuesdays.
What if are we just talking about one policy that has this date? Or are we do we have a whole lot of policies that have to meet this particular deadline, or is it just a singular policy?
And the dates could
I've read
vary,
them all done one time.
but the dates could vary based off when the law comes in effect. That's the other part. So
Right.
crosswalking that part. And I sent a message back from my email asking just to make sure we have those dates because that's not in the chart.
If I could clarify, so Ohio School Boards Association, it is their legal team that writes the model policy that is coming to you. And they should be able to provide you, if you're questioning what the effective dates of the laws are for each policy, they should be able to provide that information to the board so that you can have clarity about which policies need to be approved by which dates.
Right. So my thought was that if we're only dealing with a handful of policies, and not a lot, that need done by, the 1st of July, perhaps we could do a short board session after the boardmanship and just knock it out versus tying up another June week. I don't know what you think about that.
Would that work, Mr. Coyer?
It's 27 policies.
Yeah, I mean,
Due by July 1st?
No, I'm just saying 27 from the.
Just the one policy.
right. So let me and Jamie reach out to which policies need to be done by July 1st.
31 policies.
31. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting we need to answer that tonight. I'm just saying let's just keep that open as an option, and we can circle back with a date after we know how much we're dealing with. Is that okay?
Would if that were to work, would that work with the rest of the board to do it after boardmanship training on Monday, if we were able to?
Right, provided it's not too deep, right?
Well, I would think of the boardmanship, we can add that one policy, to go through it, right?
Right. So
Yeah.
after the training, we would
Just that
to-
one, and then do the other ones at a different meeting.
And do the one,
Yes.
the next one's July 8th.
Yes, absolutely.
That's just a lot to get through.
But we would just do the July 1 ones.
Oh,
Just the July ones.
Just the one.
Yes.
And Kathy said there's
Correct.
just one, right, there's just one she thinks, it's just that one. So if you guys do that after.
On,
board meeting
on
training-
the update review form, there was only one policy
Just one.
there that said July 1st, and that was the very first one. It has to do with promotion of parental involvement. And there was like version 1 and 2 that they had in there for that.
Okay.
I personally thought.
So we could do
number
just
2
that
was
one
the
on
better
Monday,
version.
and then the rest we could wait until July
We could do
and
that.
hold a special meeting.
Mr. President, I
Yep.
did send a message to the legal team as well, just in case. So if we could be mindful that could change if there's any additional due dates that are prior to the July 1st for our meeting on Monday. So I just want to ask that we as a board be prepared if there's additional policies that are due prior to July, that those will all be discussed on Monday, or as many as we can, just so we're in compliance, Mr. President, and to the board.
Yeah, absolutely.
I might suggest that we run that through the OSBA versus legal. That way,
I did. It went to OSBA. I sent the
Oh,
OSBA. Yes, that's what I did.
I was just trying to avoid any unnecessary.
No,
fees.
I went to our policy provider who sent the notice with our policy, the sample language, the chart of what needed to be updated. I also asked for a process improvement that they include the due date next time on the chart.
Yes. Okay. I heard legal. I heard run it through legal, and I thought we were sending this off somewhere else. Thank
Oh,
you.
no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Sounds like we have a plan.
Yeah,
All right.
one on next Monday.
Well, we're gonna double check with OSBA, but
Okay.
yes.
That could change, so be open to that.
Okay. All right. Anything else for board policy review? Hearing none, on to item H, treasurer's agenda.
Yep. So I have my reports. I may hook up to the system. Give me 2 seconds. All right, see if it works this time, Nate. Ends blank. Yeah, I'm plugged in. I see it on mine. I just don't see it up. The screen's went blank. The last 2 meetings had an issue. He's checking the cables. Oh, that's a broken cable. That's from. Is that mine? Take that here just now. That would be a problem. Okay. That's a bad cable. Still nothing? Let me redo it. Let me get out. Oh.
While they're doing that, I went ahead and forwarded that email that I'd sent back in May on that policy change that the OSBA sent us.
So he's gonna bring it up as I walk through it. So. So Nate, I'll start off with the cash flow, the very first tab. Yep. So this is the cash flow. So in May, we got $5.8 million in revenue. Our expenses are about 9.3. So we were short about 3.4 million, which again matches my numbers. I think my 5-year forecast, I had us roughly up about, hopefully, revenue over expenses about 6.5 million. We're still looking for that for the month of June. So far in June, nothing's been wonky. So my numbers are still looking good according to my 5-year forecast that I did last month. Yeah. Wonky. I used wonky. So far in expenses, wonky is the word you saw. Yes. Nope. So so far in June, for the first 10 days, nothing's been out irregular. I'll put that way. There.
That's a fancy financial term.
Right. It is very very fancy. So, but yeah. So I'm still hoping I have around the 6.5 million. So. All right. Charter receipts. The next tab over is charter receipts. Nate, on that. It's the pie graph that you guys can bring up, obviously, if Nate can find it. Yep. Again, this talks about just again, 4 million of our stuff comes from state foundation, and then we did have a property act tax allocation, and that's Groveport, because we do get like $1.2 million from Groveport once a year, and always comes in May. So we got that check from Groveport on the revenue sharing of like the TIFs and CRAs. Expenditures, Nate. Next one, start of expenditures. Again, 9.3 million. Again, personnel services are 63%. We have a lot of purchase services, but again, special ed cost is going up, and yeah, I mean, nothing much to deal with that. The next tab is the change from prior year. Again, actually ran pretty consistent. Our tax bill again last year came at the end of April. This year it came in May, so it's the 2 months difference. Other than that, we got a little bit more in restricted aid, grants and aid calculation came in May from prior year, but the expenses were actually all pretty similar. I mean, obviously expenses go up for salaries. Purchase services actually went down because last year we had 2 bus bills in May. This year we only had the 1. But other than that, again, my numbers are looking good. I'm feeling confident of my numbers that I did in the May 5-year forecast.
Thank you.
Okay.
But I have a question to see if the board would be willing to have a meeting, a special meeting, just to go over the finances once the state gets their budget together, because
I was gonna ask the same question.
we're going to have to make a lot of decisions based
And
on whatever it's constantly changing. So.
Yes, and I would probably say give me the month of July, because once I mean, it always gets past 2/30, and then so maybe around August, that first week or 2 of August would probably be.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll have everything by then. But I will talk to you guys and communicate you guys. And once I get everything and feel secure about talking to it, I agree. I think we should have a meeting about that, because there's a lot of changes.
Yep.
I have a question. The 1.2 million from Groveport, how long has it been that? Is it at an exact amount?
It's like 1 point. No, I mean last year's 1.1. Gosh, I'm trying to remember. Last year 1.16 million. And this year it's 1.23 million. But it's always been very similar amount.
Yeah, I was thinking one time we had 1.4.
Maybe
but that
before I got
was-
here.
Yeah.
So what causes the variance? Why is it not continually increasing?
This year it did increase 70,000, but like that could have been again. I wasn't here for that year.
Yeah,
but maybe that was
we've had some
tax
of
settlement,
those tax abatements that have
like a
dropped
warehouse,
off,
Right.
and
or like again my previous sometimes it would go up because a warehouse was backstated in taxes 2 or 3 years, and so they made it all up in 1 year, and that could be $500,000, and so that's
Thank you.
something like that. But it was a little more than last year, so that's good. Okay. Minimize this. Go back to my board agenda. Number 2, H2. The treasurer recommends the Groveport Madison Schools Board of Education authorize the treasurer to submit to the Franklin County Auditor the fiscal year 25 final appropriations and the fiscal year 25 final amended certificate of estimated resources as of June 30, 2025, with the submission of revised actuals to be reported at its next regular meeting for ratification.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have Mrs. Dahlberger as first, Mr. Kirschner as second.
Yep.
Any discussion? Hearing none, on to roll call, please.
Mr. Kirschner?
Aye.
Mrs. Dauterberger?
Aye.
Mr. Bauer?
Aye.
Ms. Gray?
Aye.
And Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next motion, treasurer recommends the Groveport Madison Board of Education authorize the treasurer to establish fiscal year 26 temporary appropriations, so to start off the year July 1st, and estimated resources also again to provide for operations beginning July 1st, 2025, with any modification to actual to be reported at its next regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Dahlberger as first, Mrs. Gray as second. Any discussion? Hearing none, on to roll call, please.
Mr. Kirschner? Aye. Mrs. Dauterberger?
Aye.
Mr. Bauer?
Aye.
Ms. Gray?
Aye.
And Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
Motion passes.
The last one I have, and this is a brand new law, so that's why that's why it's on here. The treasurer recommends the Groveport Madison Board of Education approve the consolidated grants application, including all revisions.
So moved.
Second.
I have Mrs. Gray as first, Mrs. Dahlberger as second.
Could you kind of explain that?
Yeah, let me save this real quick. Go to content. So again, this is just our CC application for 24-25 that just talks about all the grants we get, all the federal grants. But new law went into effect. It says, hey, they just want to see board approval of it. So that's all it is.
And I appreciate you putting the screen grabs and things like that in here as well for us to actually see it. Thank you.
Yep.
On to roll call, please.
Mr. Kirschner?
Aye.
Mrs. Dattelberger.
Aye.
Mr. Bauer.
Aye.
Ms. Gray.
Aye.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Superintendent recommends the Groveport Madison Schools Board of Education adjourn to executive session for the purpose of considering the employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual, unless a public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual requests a public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have Mrs. Dattelberger as first and Mrs. Gray as second. On to roll call, please.
Mr. Kirschner.
Aye.
Mrs. Dattelberger.
Aye.
Mr. Bauer.
Aye.
Ms. Gray.
Aye.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. It is 9:07. We are adjourning for executive session. No action will be taken afterwards.